I think the most provocative, most interesting session we had was when we were studying with Rabbi Ruby just before Pesach, and he was talking about how appropriate it is in a way for us to be studying a time of plague and a time of plague. And he kind of reminded us that Passover has been softened for children. And actually, it was a really horrendous, horrific time to be alive, and how we're only even getting a small taste of that. And that just made me it just made me think, and I think it was really interesting. And it reminds me that we actually are quite soft, and the time we're living in now is not just biblical, but it's historical, and we are somehow connected to many thousands of years of our forebears because we're living through a pandemic.
I don't think it's the wildest or most bonkers thing I heard, but I remember when we were discussing the plagues and the frogs and these kind of wackadoodle theories and stories about what it means, and these kind of outrageous fairy tales that sounded like they were tripping on acid when they were writing it up. And just the thought that sometimes people would be funny for funny's sake, without any sort of much deeper meaning on the nature of the universe, just to attract people to the material and make it appealing. And I think that that resonated with me, not because my work is extremely superficial or wackadoodle. All my work is extremely profound, but it just made me think about that, and I was surprised.
So, something that I remember is I think it was our very first LABA session with Ruby, and he basically made the claim that Jewish humor, like the Ashkenazi gallows humor that many of us are so familiar with, is not a sign of strength, but it's a sign of weakness. And I was struck by that, and I continue to think about what that means and the implications that has for why we turn to humor when we do. So yeah, that will always stay with me in a really challenging, provocative, and inspiring way.
I think the most bonkers thing I learned in LABA was simply how incredibly fucked up so many of our origin stories are, and how we're constantly in dialogue with extreme flaws, which I think I didn't really understand about Judaism before, and is also an integral element of humor.
Craziest thing I learned in a LABA session is probably the fact that the Talmud is all about bodily fluids, and that the Torah is very funny and sexy, and that everyone should be a LABA fellow. It's totally great. It's an amazing group of people that you are part of for the rest of your life. Apply.